Marco Rubio is one of those young senators making a huge difference, and the only thing negative I can say about him is that it really ticks me off to be introducing someone that looks 60 years younger than I am. Ladies and gentlemen, Marco Rubio.
Thank you, Governor, for that very kind introduction to your home state and to people that you have worked with for so many years. Thank you for that. And just for the record, at the end of this month, I will turn 43, but I feel 44. I'm sorry Kelly is not here with us today. I know she wanted to be. She had other travels and couldn't get here on time. I enjoy very much working with her. She's a phenomenal United States Senator. And I have two stories to share with you about Kelly Ayotte and myself, because we came in together. The first story is, I'll never forget, we got there together and we went to the orientation program, and they have you come up, they teach you about everything that's going on in the Senate, on everything from how to file a bill to how to find your office. And we went to that first lunch, we looked around the room, and sitting across the room, there's so-and-so, oh my gosh, he ran for president. And there's so-and-so, he almost became president. And there's so-and-so, she's been on TV, I've been watching her for years. We looked at ourselves and said, how did we get here? Well, about 6 months later, we're in the same room looking around at all those people, and we asked each other, how did they get here? And I also remember another time we were there talking, and I said, she finally turned to me and said, Marco, do you realize that if you and I served here for 30 years, we would still be the youngest people in the Senate? So anyway, don't tell my colleagues I said that. But anyway, thank you. Thanks so much for having me. I'm really grateful to be a part of it. And Regina, thank you so much for having me and inviting me. You have put together a fantastic event here in this place in the short time that I've been here in the last hour or so. I hear people that criticize the Republican Party, that say the Republican Party is not a big tent, we don't reach out to people that are different than us. They should have come here tonight to see how ridiculous that is, because tonight I saw someone here with a New York Yankees cap on. So, there he is. Don't ever say we're not a big tent, but notice he's sitting in the corner. We all have our limits. Anyway, thank you. Thank you. Thanks very much for this invitation. Thank you for hosting me. Thank you for having me. It's really an honor to be here with you. Of course, it's great to see Scott Brown, my colleague, who and I worked together for a number of years. And quite frankly, everybody in this room that has put themselves up to run for public office, which is apparently the majority of you here tonight. That's great. I wish you all the best. I'm glad to be here to talk to you about the issues confronting our country. I've been asked, well, why are you in New Hampshire to do it? For two reasons. One, because we have good friends here, and we thank you for the invitation. And the other is because of the people standing in the back of this room that will cover what we say here tonight. And that's important, because I think we've reached a moment in our country where we need to discuss the pressing issues of our time. It'll be 58 years ago this month that my parents, who at the time were very young people, got on an airplane in the city of Havana and came to the only country in the world where people like them had a chance to improve their lives. They came to the United States of America. In this country, my parents never became rich. They never made a lot of money. They never owned more than one home at a time. Never owned a yacht. Quite frankly, we're never able to save enough to put us through college. We had to borrow money to do that. But my parents lived the American dream. They lived it fully and completely. It reminds us the American dream is not about how much money you make or how many things you own at the end of your life. That may be a part of your dream, but that's not the American dream. The American dream is about things much deeper and more fundamental. The American dream is about raising your family in a safe and secure environment, about the freedom to worship as you choose, about the opportunity to improve your life, to pursue happiness, to be able to use your talents and your gifts to live life as you want to live it. That, by the way, is not a uniquely American dream. People all over the world aspire to that in their lives. What's truly extraordinary is that it has happened so often in this country to so many people that that dream that people all over the world have is named after us. It's called the American dream, and it separates us from the rest of the world. It makes us different from the rest of the world. That so many millions of people born not to privilege, not to money, have been able to achieve that in this nation, including the man and women who were my parents. And that dream is still alive. There are people in this room that are living it. There are people in this room whose children are living it. There are people working at this event here tonight. We want to thank the wait staff and all of those from this fantastic facility. Who are working hard to fulfill that dream. But I don't think we can forget the fact that today there are millions of people in this country who are starting to feel like that dream is slipping outside of their reach. They feel that way because maybe they're 24 years old and they've done everything that was asked of them. They went to college, they got an education, and now they can't find a job in the field they studied for, and they owe a bunch of money. Maybe they've worked their entire lives and the job they used to have has now been automated or outsourced to another country, and they're working part-time or for half what they used to make. Maybe they're single mothers who are struggling to raise their children, abandoned by the father of those children. She has to get up in the morning early, make breakfast for those children, drop them off at school, go work for 9 hours, rush to pick them up before daycare closes or aftercare closes, bring them home and make them dinner, do their homework and put them to bed. She's exhausted. Tomorrow she has to get up and do it all over again, and she doesn't know how it's ever going to get better for her. Whatever it may be, all over this country, there are people that are starting to believe the American dream is slipping outside of their reach. Here's the extraordinary irony. The extraordinary irony is that the man who's now in the White House and his party actively campaigned 6 years ago on the promise that they would work for these people, that their policies were about helping people like such as this. By the way, I gotta get a chuckle. The other day I read that the Democrats' new agenda, they say our new focus now is to help the people who are trying to make it. What's been your focus for the last 6 years? And yet, over the last 6 years, for the folks that I just described to you, things have not gotten better, they have gotten worse. They have gotten progressively worse, significantly worse. And the reason is simple. Because they have tried to do something that has never worked anywhere it's ever been tried. Never in the history of man has any nation been able to tax, spend, and regulate its way into prosperity. And it will not work here now. And so we have reached a crossroads as a nation, where we are now being asked to determine what is going to happen to the American dream. And will it still be a vibrant part of our country in this new century? Now, the Democratic Party will say to you, in their words, they'll say, we're standing and fighting for the American dream. But if you look at their policies, it tells you something different. What their policies are really saying to us is, this is the new normal. What we're facing here in this country today is the new normal. Go ahead and get your laugh now, guys. We're trying to figure out how to get this water up on the podium. It was bad enough that my teleprompter didn't make it, but now and what's the deal with this Fox News thing here? It's got a broken rib. Anyway, all right, that lost me. They claim that they're fighting for the American dream, but if you look at their policies that they're following, it's actually policies that say to the American people, look, this is the new normal. And what we need now is a big, powerful government to make it easier for us to accept this new normal, to alleviate the pain, to make us more comfortable in this new normal. They'll never admit this, of course, but in their policies they admit it. And it's even worse. Their ideas are stale. Their ideas never worked in the 20th century, much less in the 21st. And they're threatening to nominate someone now who wants to take us to the past, to an era that is gone and is never coming back. The 20th century is gone. We live in the 21st century, a time of extraordinary challenges, but also extraordinary opportunities. And that's where our party must step in. The Democratic Party is a party that believes, well, they'll never admit it, but they believe that the 21st century will be a post-American era. We believe that the 21st century will be another American century. Because everything that it will take to succeed in the 21st century happen to be the things that Americans are the best at. Competition, innovation, investment, creativity, entrepreneurship. That is what the 21st century will be about. And there is no nation and no people on the earth that do that better than Americans. The elephant and hope he doesn't drink it. But it won't happen on its own. The road we're on right now is a road that will rob us of the American dream. And that's where our party must take the opportunity that we've now been given to go to these Americans that are hurting, to these Americans that are insecure, to these Americans that are starting to doubt whether the fundamentals of the American dream are still alive, to go to them and say, here's a new way forward. Here's a way that takes us to this new American century. For us, it begins with a very simple idea. We believe that America must always be the nation of equal opportunity. Equal opportunity means that it doesn't matter where you start out in life, how poor your parents were, how unconnected to power they may be. We believe that every single human being has a God-given right to pursue happiness, to achieve everything they were created to achieve, to put their talents to good use, to dream any dream they want, and to work hard to achieve it. We believe that this should always be a nation where you should be able to go as far as your talent and your work will take you. At the core of equal opportunity is a very simple concept, and that is the value of work. A concept that's been lost. Work is not a burden. Work is a good thing. It's good for our country and it's good for people. It's not just a way to pay your bills, it gives purpose to your life. It allows you to put your talents to good use, to do something productive with it. And everything we do in government must be about incentivizing and creating work. Our safety net programs must be about work. The ultimate cure... I was recently asked by a journalist, a very nice person, actually, but I was asked by... I didn't mean it that way, guys. I was recently asked by a journalist, so what's your solution to unemployment, Senator Rubio? And I said, my solution to unemployment is employment. And it's also the solution to poverty. The reason why our safety net programs are failing is because they alleviate the pain of poverty, but they do not help cure it. They do not help to extract people from poverty. The way you extract people from poverty is you give them the opportunity, the skills, the education, whatever it may be, to get a job that pays enough money so they can pay their bills, provide for their families, and achieve their American dream. And so our safety net programs must be about incentivizing work. Our tax code must be about incentivizing work. Our tax code today is not about work. Our tax code today under this administration is about redistributing income, about picking winners and losers. Work is created through investment. Today we stand in a fantastic facility. Thank you for having us. I promise you that like every private sector business in America, this facility exists because somebody invested money to build it, open it, and operate it, with no guarantee of success. That's how jobs and work is created, when someone who has access to money risks that money to start a new business or to grow an existing one. We must make America the single best place in the world to do that. And right now it is losing its ground. There was a time not so long ago where there were only a handful of developed economies where you would even dare to invest money. Today there are dozens of developed economies that compete with us on a daily, regular basis to steal away investment. We need a tax code that says the more you invest, the less you will pay in taxes, so that we create more jobs, more centers of work, people give their workers raises, they invest in capital improvements in their businesses to expand them. We need to make America the single best place in the world to do that. The other thing that creates work is innovation. You do something that you already do, you do more of something you already do, you'll create some jobs. You do something no one else does, you'll create millions of new jobs. We need to make America the best place in the world to innovate. The single greatest impediment to innovation is our regulatory code. And let me tell you one of the reasons why. Because you could have a great idea. You could decide, I'm going to open up this great idea out of the spare bedroom of my home. And it may be in violation of the zoning code, but that's what you're going to do. But if you have to comply with a mountain of regulations, you can't do that. A big company can do that. Big companies may not like big government, but they can afford to deal with it. They can hire the best lobbyists in Washington to help write those regulations. They can hire the best lawyers in America to find the loopholes in those regulations. But if you're starting a business out of the spare bedroom of your home, you can't do that. So that business may never happen. There are thousands of companies that were never born because they could not comply with the regulations they were buried underneath. And it's worse. I'm here to tell you that at both state and federal government level, big companies and established industries often use regulations to suffocate competition. They don't want any other companies competing with them. So they will use their influence on government to get regulations written that make it impossible for anyone to ever challenge them. And that's why regulations are destroying innovation in America. That's why, while we're still the most innovative nation on earth, we every single year have steadily lost our advantage. Beyond investment and innovation, there's one more point I want to point out, and that is that in the 21st century, millions of our best paying jobs will depend on our access to markets abroad. And that's why foreign policy still matters. It's not because we desire to tell people what to do in their countries, but because we recognize that all the world benefits, but so do we economically, when there are millions of people living in stable and peaceful countries that can afford to buy the stuff we build and invent. And that's why we can never allow for any hegemonic power to emerge in any region of the world that we have to ask permission from before we do business with some country. That's why we can never allow any country, like China's trying to do, to claim that the ocean belongs to them. We can never allow that to happen. Not simply for foreign policy purposes, but for economic purposes. More than anything else, we will benefit from peace on earth. You know what the best way to ensure peace is? Through strength. You want... If you want to decrease the likelihood that your military will ever have to go to war, make it a military that could never lose any war. And last but not least,
Croc TV.